ourselves and try to really differentiate what really Islam is and what is not. And if you make a mistake, as many ayats in the Quran, Allah is Rahman and Rahim, He will forgive us and hopefully He will show us the right way. Now coming back to the topic. We as Muslims, as believers, have responsibility towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, and then to our kin, to our parents, families, the needy, and the poor, and societies also. We are also responsible for our communities, our neighborhoods, and the whole world as torchbearers of peace, justice, and truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in many verses in the Quran to pray and follow up our prayers with good deeds. And what could be more righteous than being good to others, whoever it is, whether it's a Muslim or non-Muslim. Bringing people together as peacemakers and have compassion to our neighbors and to everybody that we meet in our daily life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, verse 104, وَلَتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Let there arise out of you a band of people inviting to all that is good and not doing what is wrong. They are the ones to enter paradise. He also details the creation, the beginning of men and women in Surah An-Nisa verse 1, and the transliteration of the verse is, O mankind, reverence your guardian Lord, who created you from a single person, created of like nature. It's not only talking to men here, Allah is talking to all humankind. Created you of like nature. The natures of both men and women are the same. His mate, and then scattered countless seeds, creating men and women. Reverence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through whom ye demand your mutual rights. And reverence the wombs that bore you, that is the mothers. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always ever watches over you. Then here, after the creation of man and woman, the diversity really began at that point. The diversity began with the creation of gender. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says again in Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 49, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min zikr wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum inna Allaha atqakum inna Allaha alimun khabir. The transliteration of this verse is, O human beings, we have created you all out of a male and a female and made you into various peoples and tribes so that you may come to know one another. Surely the most honored of you in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is most conscious of Allah. Behold, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knowing and all aware. But if we look at our current day and age, approximately half of our fellow believers suffer oppression because of cultural restrictions. And these cultural restrictions are not Islamically justified. As Muslims, it is our duty. We should all work towards stopping this injustice. But most of the time, what do? We keep quiet. We say, you know what, why do I want to get involved in that? I don't want to create any ripples in the society. When you go to the masjid, I don't want to create any ripples in the masjid. Let it go, whatever it is, I just go do my prayers and get out. If most of us think it that way, including myself. Now, if we are thinking that way, then my brothers and sisters, both especially brothers, we are the cause of the problem. If we see any problem, whether it is in the masjid or in our house or where it is our duty, especially in the masjid, it is our duty to take care of the problem or at least address that problem. We must start talking about these things and let it affect our masjid and our communities. If you look at women, if you look at the Quran, if you look at the history, we all know that women have suffered for thousands of years, even before the advent of Islam, even before the time of the Prophet. And even today they continue to suffer. Maybe not in the US. If you look at our other countries, we know what it is. You see it on TVs. I don't want to name the countries, but we all know that is true. If we look at the old times, what was the biggest prevalent thing that was really horrific was female infanticide. And you know the Arab cultures at that time, I'm not talking about recently, at that time, women in the tribe especially used to be treated as objects, like property. And if a female girl is born, the girl used to be buried because nobody wanted a female girl at that time. It was not until Quran was revealed that the female infanticide was considered a crime, and laws regarding marriage and divorce were outlined. But even with the revelation of Quran, the cultural attitude towards women is still bad, even now, even today. And we see it in our own communities. We see it in our own masajids. I'm sorry to say that. We see it in our own masjids. In some of the Islamic centers, in some of the masjids, this is true. Some of the masjids, women are discouraged to come to the masjid. Women are discouraged even to enter into the masjid. They are intimidated by fear of rejection, retaliation, humiliation, whatever you want to call it, you can call it. But masjid is Allah's house of worship. That's what we say. So who gives anybody a right to stop women coming to the masjid? There are 2 masjids in Ohio that I'm personally aware of, that women are not allowed to go to that masjid. About 10 years back, I think I mentioned this in my previous book a long time back, about 10 years back, I think CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations, they conducted a study of 416 American masjids. 2/3 of the masjids out of 416, it wasn't randomly it was done, did not allow women to pray in the main hall, whatever the reason is. 1/4 of the masjids did not offer any program for women. If women used to go to the masjid and ask for any specific program, whether it is Quranic reading or whether it is social program or some kind of help needed or something, they would outrightly say that we don't have any programs for women. 1/3 of these masajids did not allow women to sit on the governing boards. Now, my friends, if you look at this really, at the time of Prophet, we all know the hadith, we all know the history, what it is. Women used to discuss problems with the Prophet in the masjid. So it doesn't give us any right not to allow women to sit on the governing boards. Now, if you take it a little bit further, whether it is especially, let's say, Muslims, whether it is even non-Muslim women, we are just talking about women right now. How many women are CEOs of the companies? Highly educated, highly educated. They work shoulder to shoulder with men. Maybe in some cases they are much smarter than men. If they can do that, then when it comes to the masjid, how come the women cannot be allowed to contest any elections in the masjid? They cannot be allowed to run for any council in the masjid. So we need to open our brains on this. We need to really think where we are right now and decide, are we really living 1400 years back, or what are we doing these days? Even today, in some of the countries, and I'm not talking about the US now, in some of the countries, even today, women don't know what their rights are, as the rights according, as per the Islamic thing. When they get married, what their rights are. There are rights that are given by Quran. There are given by, many hadiths that say, many hadiths are there that says that. Women don't even know what their rights are during marriage. What their rights are, God forbid, if they get divorced. In most of the countries, in our countries, women are even discouraged from education. It happens in our own countries. We know that. The reason that is mostly often given is, it will be hard for them to get married if they are highly educated. And people who are economically backward, they don't even have the basic education. This is in contrast, if you look at it, to the Prophet itself. Prophet married the first wife, Hazrat Khadija, was a very successful businesswoman. And if the Prophet would marry a businesswoman, and Prophet was not known to discourage her from doing business, so who are we? So we need to sit back and we need to ask ourselves that question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rum, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ إِنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لَتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And the transliteration is, and among his wonders is that he created for you mates amongst yourself, that you may find restfulness and satisfaction. And he has engendered between you affection and tenderness. Surely in that are signs for people who think. So my brothers, especially for the brothers, we need to start thinking about these problems that we have. As we all know, when we talk about the Prophet, our Prophet was a man of character. He was a man of honesty. He was a man of integrity. He treated his family with kindness. We all know that. And when it came to his wife, there was a specific wisdom and justice that the Prophet used. The Prophet was known, there are many hadiths, the Prophet was known to have listened to the advice from his wife and for the other women in the congregations. How many of us believe or strive to be like Prophet? most of us, if we look at ourselves, we try to look like how the Prophet was, our imagination, you know. We'll have topi on, we have turban on, we have long beards on, we have the jubba on and all that. But of all these people, how many of us really try to emulate the character of the Prophet? How many of us try to be how Prophet really used to be? If you look at it, the percentage would be very minuscule. We need to look at that too. In the last sermon that the Prophet advised us, the last sermon that the Prophet gave, he advised us on treating the women in most kind manner. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for, listen to this, for they are your partners. The Prophet didn't say that they are second-class citizens. The Prophet didn't say that you have to enter the masjid from the back door. The Prophet didn't say that. The Prophet said that they are your partners. That means equals. So my brothers, all of us should really take a look at this and encourage our mothers, sisters, you know, and daughters to attend the masjid wherever we live, in whatever community we live, if there is a masjid there. And we have to, especially men, we have to make sure that all the masajids in our community are women-friendly. Whatever that is, we need to ask the sisters in our community what they like to have in the masjid, how they want to be in the masjid. When the masjid is designed, we have to take the input of the sisters and make sure that they are comfortable with what, you know, when they will be in the masjid. And there are a couple of things here that, you know, I got it from some scholars. They say that, you know, I don't know if we do this or not, I'm sure we don't do this. He say, you know, most of the people, at least from the governing board, they should stand at the door and greet the women, especially when they enter the masajids. So make them feel at home, make them feel welcome. You know, even women, all the sisters here, respectfully, I would say that you have a duty yourself too. You have to educate yourself what your rights are. You have to educate yourself when you enter the masjid, what are you supposed to do? If you see anything wrong, that you are not comfortable in the masjid, then you have to make your voice known. And this is the only way we can, as sisters, you know, you can really bring about change in the masjid. Otherwise, as I said, you know, culturally we are so backward that you will never be comfortable in a masjid wherever you go. And you should not shy away. If there are elections in the masjid, if there is an opening, if there is an opportunity to sit on the board, the governing board of the masjid, you have to fight your way. There is no reason why a sister, a woman cannot sit on the board of the masjid. Look here, we have all these sisters. These are highly educated people. We have, you know, kids growing up. These are the future of community leaders. You know, why can't somebody, you know, a girl be the president of the masjid? There is no reason why she cannot. So you really have to take it. And sometimes you have to push us to do that. And, you know, until you get the way you want. And, you know, you should not stop. And both brothers and sisters, if we work together, we can eradicate. This is an oppression, basically, you know, whether it be, you know, it's a very strong word, but this is what it is. You know, we can work together to take care of this problem that we have in our communities. The vision of the Muslim Ummah in any community should be men, women, brothers, sisters, side by side, working together for a common goal. And make sure that there is a line, obviously, and we should not cross that line. Then, working for the first and foremost cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and then towards the betterment of our masajids and our communities. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.